right. Well, good morning once again. So today, I titled my talk something about spiritual stages of development. It was kind of hard to exactly pinpoint in a short few words what this is about, but I'll explain a little bit about the background. So about a month and a half ago, I took the class called Aging and Saging that was offered here with Lucinda Kurtz and her husband Orrin. And during one of the classes, we had a handout that we were to use for homework based on the book Falling Upward by Richard Rohr. Now, I had not ever read anything by Richard Rohr before or knew much about him. But some things in this one chapter that we read really struck me, both primarily in terms of our center, and of course in understanding my own personal life. The thing that stuck out to me is that he talks about the two halves of life, and about churches and spirituality or religion. And the notion that during our two halves of life, we have different needs and we're ready and open for different things, which is perfectly normal and natural and okay. And I know we're often saying here, we need to get younger people in here. You know, we need to, if we're going to grow, if we're going to thrive, if we're going to continue on after all of us oldies are gone, we need to start getting some younger people in here. And so then I thought, well, what does that mean about who we are and what we teach? And after studying this a lot more deeply this week, I came to realize, and of course it's not just about younger when we're talking about the two halves of life, it's more about where are you in your spiritual path? Where are you in the development of your spiritual path? So you can certainly have 10-year-olds or 15 or 20-year-olds that are in their second half of life because they've matured spiritually due to circumstances in their life. And you can certainly have 70-year-olds that are still in their first half of life. So it's not about age. But it does, beg the question, well, all right, if maybe we shouldn't be saying we want younger people. We want younger people that are looking for guidance in that second stage of life. So qualify it a little bit. And I think, sometimes we do see a lot of young people come and go, and, very well could be because what we're offering isn't what they need in their life at that time. A lot of times young families are very interested in a more traditional teaching for their children, for example, or it's a place for family or whatever. But that's just a way of introduction now about how I got intrigued by this book and this author. And so the full title of his book is Falling Upward: A Spirituality for the Two Halves of Life. This one was written in 2011. I've discovered that he's written over 30 books, and the latest is going to be coming out later this month. I found lots of YouTube videos on him, which was just delightful. So Richard Rohr, he's a Franciscan friar, started his study in 1961. He became ordained into the priesthood in the Roman Catholic Church in 1970. Now, I'm not normally attracted to Christianity, traditional Christianity, or priests that would be teaching. However, he's, I think, pretty phenomenal. And even though he's still accepted in the Catholic Church, he's on the edge. He's on the fringe. And he currently lives in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and is the founder and director of the Center for Action and Contemplation. And in the meantime, I discovered he has a conference August 31st to September 2nd this year, which is full up, it's closed, but you can get a web registration, which I did do for that period of time and for some time afterwards. So we can talk more about like how we might get involved with sharing some of that later. So he's written a number of books and is very much about the inner journey and the real meaning of the Bible and what Jesus was here to teach. And I was just blown away by the many, many quotes from the Bible that I never understood. And he just brought life to them for me. And so we'll be talking a little bit about that. So back to the two halves of life. He said Carl Jung is the person who actually coined that phrase. And it's recognized in a number of traditions about sort of our progression through our spiritual journey. So in the first half of life, we're building the container. We are, creating form about who am I, what am I here for? And so there's a lot about my own identity. There's about security. We look for our careers. We look for our partners. We, get married, raise families, and so on. And so there's a lot of questioning and learning about just who we are and how can I be secure in this life? What can I do to be secure in this life? And express myself as I think I am, which is separate from how you are, certainly separate from how our parents are. And, we're just out there forging our way. We need to learn to set boundaries. We need to learn about order and safety and control. And all of that's important. And he talks about, it's really the Beatles in the story, that they have this container about what is good and what is bad. And morning is good and afternoon and evening are not. And if you don't like morning like we do, we don't like you. And so, Rob, that was just perfect. Totally perfect to coincide with what I'm talking about here. So the Beatles are in the first half of life. They're not ready for enlightenment yet because they have rules and they have boundaries, and you're outside of it if you don't agree. And so that's a lot of how religion is in many cases. Unfortunately, most cases. If you don't believe what I believe and believe in the God that I believe in, then you're different, you're scary, and I can't trust you, and you're out there, and I'm going to protect myself at all cost to stay how I am, and so forth. And it's all about, in terms of religion, about the ritual and about, teach me what the Bible means, teach me the facts, explain it to me. You maybe memorize Bible quotes. There's a lot of symbology, the flags and the badges and the banners. And, this is the Roman Catholic Church, or, this is what, he talks about the Roman Catholic Church because that's where he's from. But we know there are many other religions that they have their own ways and own symbols. And it's, just very much about the externals. He mentioned, as an aside, that this trend, this is his belief, that the trend towards fundamentalism that's getting bigger and bigger currently is, in his mind, there's a large number of people that didn't have that container and those boundaries set properly early in their life, and they're searching in their 20s and 30s and 40s to find something for structure. They need the structure because they didn't have it early on, perhaps. It's a theory. But anyway, he thought that was a potential explanation for why there's such a trend for this desire for, the facts and the right and the wrong and that sort of thing. So if we want to become grasshoppers, we start to move into our second half of life. And so now it's not about what is building the container, but what's in the container. What's the container for? Now what am I supposed to do with life? Expressing, and because we're safe, because we've got a nice first half container built, we have the freedom to move forward and start to explore more. And often this exploration is triggered by the falling down concept that the title is based on. Something, as we go through life, we meet challenges, and might be related to health, might be related to tragedies, deaths of loved ones, and any number of things bring us to, there's something deeper, there's something more than me just having this little happy life like the Joneses? Was it the Joneses that were happy? Yeah. I don't know, maybe they transcended everything and they're in the late second half. Sounds like it was because of the money, and they were able to not get caught in that trap. But something it spurs us onward, that this isn't enough. This great job, this great career, this beautiful family or whatever. I mean, it's great. I love it. It's wonderful. But something's still missing. I'm not fulfilled. Or things happen that are out of your control. Suddenly, all that control you had in the first half building is not there, and something's got to change. And so then we're inspired to start searching. He says that these experiences of falling open us to higher levels of spiritual development and understanding. They open the field. He refers to it as a field. Okay. Oh, there was this other quote back here. So Thomas Merton, who was also a Franciscan monk, he said, "We may spend our whole life climbing the ladder of success, only to find when we get to the top that our ladder is leaning against the wrong wall." So I like that. And another quote from Richard Rohr is, "When you get your who am I question right," which is what we're asking about, in phase one, who am I? And then moving into phase two, what should I do questions tend to take care of themselves. So once you move into that, who am I, which is who I am, is really the beloved, loving, perfect creation of the divine. And, I am here to express love and be that. Another book I was reading was by Aja Shanti, and he wrote a book called Resurrecting Jesus. And there was this part in there that actually, interestingly, kind of ties in with this first half, second half. In the Old Testament, where Moses meets God and the burning bush and is given the Ten Commandments and so forth, it was all about an external relationship. I'm here and God is there, and I'm going to follow God's rules. God gave me these rules, and I'm going to follow these rules, but God is still outside, and we're separate. And in the New Testament, Jesus comes and he's teaching that we're here to embody God's love and be that love, and that God is within us. And it's a whole different teaching, and it's like a readiness. You need to move on. You need to move away from the Old Testament teachings and start to look at yourself, look at how you are in the world, look how you treat people. The old the quote about the stake or the stave in your eye. Once you can remove that, then you can see the speck and help remove the speck from the other person's eye. I totally slaughtered that quote, but get the idea. It's like, look at yourself first. Who's going to cast the first stone? Are you free of sin? No. Okay. And it's about giving and being inclusive. Jesus was completely inclusive. He didn't say only you can come in and listen to my teachings. He went everywhere and accepted everyone wherever they were and gave them, his love and his teachings. And so as we grow in our level 2 development, or stage 2, it's about transcending and including. And transcending and including all things, all people, all beliefs, and not throwing out the baby with the bathwater kind of thing. Like the rituals are still meaningful. The symbols can be still very meaningful. You can still go to your traditional churches, but you're going to be also participating in that and going beyond. He also talked about the changes in the church body, in the sense that churches that are primarily addressing that first half of life, that stage 1, are going to be less participatory. It's like you go to church and you sit and you receive, and then you leave. You're not expected or maybe even allowed to participate. And he's noticing a difference. And of course, I believe this center was built with the desire to be at that second half of life, to the stage 2, that, there's an openness and an invitation for participation by everybody, that the wisdom isn't just in, the top couple of people. The wisdom is in each one of us. And that there are many different paths, we're inclusive, and so our whole premise here is not, I'm going to teach you this and you learn it, and you memorize it and you bring it back next week, and if you got it, good. It's not about that. It's totally about your participation, each of our individual paths and growth, and then sharing that with one another, and the brothers and sisters kind of all on the same level, and just helping and guiding one another on this journey. And the journey that I think we teach here is definitely, it's an inside job. It's all about you going inside and discovering who you are, and all of us coming to the truth that we are love, and be in the world as that love. And so then part of this second half of life and spiritual guidance, or where Richard Rohr talks about wanting religion to go, is to bring back the teaching of contemplative prayer. And he said, interestingly, it used to be a very big part of the Catholic teaching, that, especially with the monks, and in the priesthood, that that prayer and that inner experience is crucial. And somehow, I don't know, he said, I don't remember, I'm not sure if I wrote down the year, but somewhere around like 300 years after Jesus, it was not talked about so much anymore, and basically completely taken away from religious teaching, except for the few that were in certain aspects of this priesthood. So contemplative prayer, unlike prayer maybe in the first half of life, where you're beseeching God to give you what you need to get you out of these troublesome situations in your life, in contemplative prayer, it's about learning to become in constant unity with God. It's about learning that God is in everything, that everything you do is in connection and loving unison with God. And you're in loving union with what's there in every moment. And he commented, it's a practice in rewiring your mind. And it brings me to A Course in Miracles, and the notion that what the Course is doing is undoing what we believed, what we thought, how we were. Just undoing all that and reteaching our mind how to see and how to see with the Holy Spirit and so on. So he speaks of the first phase as being more dualistic. You know, is it good or bad? Is it right or wrong? Are you with me? Are you against me? You know, and it's a lot of the this or that. And in the second phase, it's more this and much less dualistic. And at this phase, there's not a need to prove things. I don't have to prove to you that this is the best church to come to, or this is the best thing to believe. You just see that it's all, whatever, it's all of God. It's all an opportunity. It's all an experience, much more an experiential way of living. And we go beyond judgment and analysis and our own agendas and just be and just accept, just love one another. We let the moment be what it is, as it is. What it is, as it is. Now, even Richard Rohr, who's been studying this for many years, he says, I'm not there yet, 100%. And, it's not a suddenly I'm in the second half of my journey here and I'm all about what the inside job. And so I'm able to be this compassionate, open, non-judgmental person. Of course, we tiptoe back and forth. And, but it's always, the more you practice it, the more we meditate, the more we recognize our own judgments, and how that really is only harming ourselves and how there's really nothing to be afraid of. Then, the more and more that we do that, the more we can come from being in that space and being those open, loving, joyous people that we are meant to be in this life. And so I think I'll end there and let it be open mic time. Okay?